In this Myth of Empires Getting Started guide, 10 things you should know before playing early access release, I'm going to be talking about the best tips and tricks that'll help you understand and make your overall experience with the game better. I'll be discussing the resources you ought to prioritize, ways to level up your character and skills quickly, and things you can do to survive for longer periods of time. Myth of Empires is an open-world and sandbox survival RPG developed by Angela Game and published by Anti-Delay. The goal is to construct everything from your equipment to multiple structures, workstations, and buildings to create and expand your own empire. Myth of Empires is available on PC via Steam. This is a sponsored video. Please note that sponsored videos are only sponsoring coverage and that our opinions about the game remain our own, despite any working relationships with developers or publishers. In Myth of Empires, everyone will spawn in the PvE server of their choosing. When you're above level 16, you'll be presented with the option to transfer to a PvP server in order to challenge yourself further. Even if this is a multiplayer game, you can still have fun and thrive as a solo player, but do note that it's going to be a bit difficult, especially if you're new to the survival genre. Before we dive into base building, let's begin with the most important resources to farm for. The most basic resources you have to find and collect are grass, branches, rubble, raw meat, clay, and copper mines. They're the foundation for the useful items that are necessary to gear up and to build your base. 4 pieces of grass, for example, lets you craft a straw rope, which is the main ingredient to create a spinning wheel and campfire. On the other hand, you'll need heaps of copper mine to craft bronze protective gear, or to smelt it into copper ingots for a fishing rod. To efficiently gather most of these materials, you have to equip tools such as a stone axe, stone hammer, and stone hunting knife at the very least. The knife is important to skin animals like deer, rabbits, and foxes for their raw meat, coarse hide, and bones. Note that for grass, branches, and rubble, you don't really need any tools since you can simply pick them up off the ground, but it is preferable to chop wood and mine ore in order to level up their corresponding skill sets. Now, a lot of these resources can be obtained easily in any area. For clay mines, it's important to pay a visit to places by the river to gather them. What's good about their location compared to copper mines is it's pretty accessible even at lower levels. Their larger volumes of copper are usually situated in bases of hostile NPCs, which necessitates the assistance of other players. Fighting against them on your own is challenging due to the damage they're able to inflict. Alternatively, you can traverse mountainous areas to safely search for copper there. At the beginning of the game, your carry weight capacity is very low at only 150 pounds. Needless to say, this value is insufficient considering you'll be crafting everything you own and use from scratch, so hoarding materials is a big part of the game. The moment you reach level 4, you should craft a wooden chest for storage. You can then upgrade this to cabinets and large lockers at level 14 and 30 respectively. When you're gathering resources, however, you'll want to be able to bring as many items as possible. This is done by expanding your inventory space with the help of a horse to boost your carry weight capacity to 700 pounds in total. Doing so would prevent you from constantly running to your base just to deliver and store items you've accumulated. In order to do this, you ought to craft a coarse rein to tame the horse and a coarse light saddle to mount it afterwards. Lastly, leveling up your physique skill to level 75 and 600 raises your overall capacity by 50 and 100 pounds. In Myth of Empires, you'll have the ability to teleport farther places using a bedroll or wooden bed, but there's a caveat. You won't be able to take any of your items, so you end up gathering resources from the very beginning to at least come up with the tools you need. As a workaround, you'll have to set up cabinets and large lockers beside these teleportation points. You can then fill them up with survival equipment like weapons and armor in preparation for activities you wish to partake in. More often than not, fast traveling from one of your bases to the next is useful to obtain materials in specific areas. This is especially true in cases when you haven't tamed horses yet, or if the location you're trying to go to is too far away. For instance, should you have a farm that's located thousands of meters from your main base, then you'll certainly want to set up teleportation points. Next is leveling up your character as well as the skills or expertise you'll be focusing on. You're able to level up quickly by gathering thousands of resources or crafting gear. Simply picking up grass will do the trick. But to speed the process up, you'll need to invest in multiple blessings via the boundary marker, which is constructed using the guild workshop by spending copper coins. As a result, you'll boost your XP gains by more than 10%. You can improve your efficiency and gathering rate by the same amount as well. Note that you shouldn't avail of the same blessings since you won't be able to stack its benefits anyway. The higher your character level is, the more items, equipment, and workstations you're able to craft due to the recipes you unlock with recipe points. When it comes to expertise, you'll have to invest points into the ones you'll be concentrating on to gain extra XP. For instance, if you like woodcutting, you can keep improving this skill by chopping trees. Not only do you increase your efficiency, but you end up receiving special bonuses along the way. Using the same example, at level 150, you considerably increase your output of branches and bark while improving the durability of your axe. In relation to the previous tip of leveling up your expertise, it's best to focus on a select few such as physique and crafting talents when you're slowly starting to build your base from scratch. Physique helps you survive longer by raising your max HP, whereas crafting enhances both the durability of the items you create as well as the time by which you make them. Under Physique, you can invest in at least another skill. I highly recommend taking the skill that allows you to climb while unarmored, as this will allow you to get to higher places, as well as prevent you from being gated inside walls while you're locked out of the game, which can happen from time to time. With my character, I decided to allocate points into mining and woodcutting to improve my gathering rate for both activities. If you're part of a guild, you'll be able to set up efficient production lines by delegating these expertise in accordance with your members' preferences. You also gain additional bonuses because of your guild skills. Thanks to the activity points you all produce, your efficiency becomes better. For instance, with mining prowess, the gathering rate of mining increases by more than 15%. Once your guildmates' skills are leveled up accordingly, they can reallocate their expertise points into strength and agility talents to prepare for sieges. Upon reaching skill level 375 though, you'll need to search for perk points in mountain peaks to obtain bonuses from that point onward. When choosing the best region to build your main base, you'll have to consider the locations of copper and iron ore because these are some of the toughest resources to obtain. Copper and iron mines are major components of essential early to mid-game items like bronze shields, raw iron protective gear, large lockers, and forge tables. Since you won't be able to take on hostile NPCs at early levels just yet, you should initially spawn in the western side of the alluvial plain 2, by the river and in between the snowy mountains. Here you'll find a decent amount of unguarded copper and iron ore together with vast flat lands as a good foundation for your base. You can then surround it with wooden city defense structures for added protection, as well as a territory banner if you're incapable of building a boundary marker at the moment. Both of these prevent the decay of your buildings for a certain period of time. On top of maximizing the expertise points for Physique to unlock its respective bonuses, you should also stock up on special food and medicine when you're out in the wilderness. Not only do you have to be aware of your character's fullness and stamina, but you also need to monitor their toxicity and weather protection gauges. Fullness automatically restores stamina to be able to run longer distances and to attack targets. If either of these are low, your performance and health will both suffer. To keep hunger at bay, you'll need to bring some edible food. The reason why I say edible is that before cooking them, they become susceptible to rotting, which leads to increased toxicity levels. There are 3 toxicities worth remembering, particularly body, meridian, and gastro. Taking more damage, dying often, and consuming raw foods raises these levels. To counter them, you need to eat rice, cooked meat, and locust noodles, respectively, otherwise your HP, stamina, and carry weight capacity will be heavily penalized. You should also consider weather changes, so be sure to bring porridge and medicine in order to boost your resistances against the cold, hot, and miasma-like conditions. Lastly, remember to craft and bring a lot of bandages in case you encounter hostile creatures like wild bears and aggressive bandits, as it will quickly restore HP. When it comes to combat, you need to choose the best weapons and armor type to effectively kill your opponents. With the bow, you're able to initiate and deal damage at range. The only drawback to wielding it is the numerous arrows you have to craft beforehand. You'll then have to immediately switch to a one-handed melee weapon like a spear and shield since enemies are able to swiftly catch up to you. The spear momentarily stunlocks them while the shield enhances your defenses. To raise their respective skill levels as effectively as possible, you can simply utilize the most basic tiers of these weapons. For example, equipping the crude wooden bow and then repeatedly hunting animals thereafter notably improves bow damage. The same is true for light and heavy armor. However, between the two, I prefer heavy armor due to its higher defensive rating. This does take quite a while to get used to since you're essentially sacrificing movement speed for more protection, but it'll be more advantageous in the long run. Expending stamina while wearing heavy armor raises its skill level. Copper coins is the main currency in Myth of Empires. You're able to make donations to the Imperial Court to prevent your buildings from decaying, paying taxes to receive protection, and invest in blessings among other things. The fastest ways to farm for these coins is to sell your items to merchants or to sell heaps of grass via the resource transfer feature of the boundary marker. Since bark, branches, rubble, and grass are very abundant and easily obtainable, you should have no problems in making a lot of money. Additionally, if your guild succeeds in the county battle event, you'll be taking control over the server. As the magistrate, your guild lord will be able to set and impose taxes on other guilds, which is crucial to further expand your empire. Whether you're playing solo or with friends, it's important to recruit vagrants because you can assign them in workstations to craft items, thereby raising their proficiency, or deploy them in fights. Remember that you're able to recruit at least 5 vagrants and increase their number by unlocking bonuses under the charisma talent and command skill. There are 2 ways to recruit them. First is by talking to low-level neutral NPCs who are usually sitting by the campfire and then giving them items they want. And second is by knocking vagrants out with a club and hanging them on a torture device. Between the two, the latter is riskier since you require the help of another player if your level is too low, or if you're not fully equipped to subdue the combative NPC to begin with. That's all for our Myth of Empires Getting Started guide. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a few things. If you'd like more information about the game, you can check out our video explaining what it's all about. And if you plan on picking it up on the Steam store, be sure to use our link below to help support the channel. So what are you guys thinking of Myth of Empires? Are any of you guys playing it? Let us know in the comments below.